Let's be honest, when did you start believing that, to be successful, you had to be perfect? Maybe it was the first time you failed, and the feeling of shame and failure seemed unbearable. Or maybe it was when you looked at your competitors and thought, they have it all under control, while I'm just trying to survive. The truth is, we live in a culture that glorifies perfect, unattainable success. But here's an idea that might surprise you: not only is perfection impossible, but it's also a barrier to real success. I know this might sound contradictory, but embracing imperfection is the key to thriving, even in business. And I'm not just talking about accepting minor mistakes here and there. I'm talking about adopting a completely different attitude toward vulnerability, failure, and what we consider our weaknesses. So, if you're feeling overwhelmed by the pressure to be perfect, or if you've heard that internal voice telling you you're not good enough, now is the time to stop and reassess. The vulnerability you've been trying so hard to hide might actually be the source of your greatest power. The first thing we need to debunk is this idea that perfection exists and is necessary for success. Let's face the facts: no one is perfect. We all make mistakes, have bad days, and face challenges that make us feel inadequate. Perfection, besides being an illusion, is a huge burden we carry unnecessarily. And when we're so focused on avoiding mistakes, we miss opportunities to innovate, take calculated risks, and truly connect with people. In business, the pursuit of perfection can show up in many ways: fear of delegating tasks, micromanaging, obsessing over details that, in the end, don't make that much of a difference. This attempt at absolute control not only drains our energy but also limits the growth of our business. Because when we don't allow others to see our imperfections, we're not allowing them to see our humanity. And here's the big insight: people connect with other people, not with idealized versions. When you show vulnerability, when you admit you don't have all the answers, you create a space for empathy. Your clients, business partners, employees, all of them will relate to you much more when they see that, just like them, you're also navigating the unpredictable waters of entrepreneurship. Now, I know what you're thinking: okay, but won't showing my vulnerability make me look weak? Won't it make me lose credibility? Actually, it's quite the opposite. The problem is we confuse vulnerability with weakness, when in fact, vulnerability is one of the greatest displays of courage we can offer. Admitting that we're scared, uncertain about the outcome, or that we've made a mistake requires a special kind of bravery, one we rarely associate with success in business but that is absolutely essential. When you're able to say, "I don't know," or "I made a mistake," you're opening the door to learning and growth. You allow yourself to try, fail, and try again. This attitude not only inspires confidence in those who work with you but also creates a more open and innovative business culture. Companies that embrace vulnerability tend to be more creative and better at adapting to change because they're not afraid to fail. For example, many successful startups went through significant failures before finding their ideal business model. They experimented, tested ideas that didn't work, but instead of being paralyzed by failure, they learned from it and moved forward. The same principle applies to you. Each time you accept your vulnerability, you're taking a step towards something greater. Before we continue, if this content is resonating with you and helping you see imperfection in a new light, don't forget to give it a like, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss any future videos. It really helps the channel keep delivering relevant content for you. Now, let's dive into the real obstacle to vulnerability. If vulnerability is the key to growth, then shame is what holds us back from embracing it. Shame is that inner voice that tells us we're not good enough, that our work isn't competent enough, that we'll be judged for our failures. It's the enemy of connection because it leads us to hide, withdraw, and create a facade to protect ourselves. In business, shame can manifest in many ways. It might be the reason you avoid asking for help, fearing it will make you look incompetent. It might be the reason you work endless hours without a break, feeling like you constantly need to prove your worth. It might be the reason you compare yourself to other entrepreneurs, always feeling like you fall short. Shame paralyzes us and keeps us from making bold decisions. And the worst part? It's a deeply isolating feeling. Instead of opening up to others, it makes us believe we're the only ones feeling this insecurity. But the truth is, we all deal with shame at some point. And the more we talk about it, the more we bring it into the open, the less power it has over us. Here's a big revelation. People don't want to follow or do business with someone who appears to have a perfect life or business. They want to connect with real people, with real stories. They want to know that, despite the flaws, you found a way forward. They want to hear about your struggles, your challenges, and how you overcame them. Because it's through those stories that they'll find inspiration to face their own challenges. When you allow yourself to be authentic, when you share the difficulties you've faced and how they've transformed you, you build a deeper, more lasting relationship with your clients, employees, and business partners. And that authentic connection is what drives success, both in business and in life. So, instead of hiding your flaws, why not use them as a point of connection? Share with your team the mistakes you've made and the lessons learned from them. Talk to your clients about how you overcame an obstacle. These moments of vulnerability create a bridge of empathy that strengthens business relationships in a way that perfection never could. Now that we understand the importance of embracing imperfection, the question remains, how can we apply this practically in our daily lives? The first thing you can do is begin changing your internal narrative. Instead of thinking, I can't mess up, try replacing it with, I'll learn from my mistakes. This subtle yet powerful shift creates space for experimentation and growth. And, most importantly, it takes the burden of perfection off your shoulders. Another powerful practice is self-compassion. When you make a mistake or fail, what's the first thing you do? If you're like most people, you probably criticize yourself harshly. But what if, instead, you treated yourself with the same kindness you'd offer a friend in a similar situation? This practice not only reduces stress but also creates a mental environment that's more conducive to creativity and innovation. And finally, celebrate your successes, not just the big ones, but the small ones too. Because success isn't a finish line, it's a journey. Every step you take towards your goals, even if imperfect, is progress. And that's exactly what matters. Before we dive deeper into what it means to embrace imperfection, we need to understand where this relentless pursuit of perfection comes from. Modern society is saturated with unrealistic expectations. From childhood, we're bombarded with images and stories that glorify success without mistakes, heroes who never fail, and leaders who never tire. The media, social networks, the workplace, and even family interactions reinforce the idea that being imperfect means being inadequate. Social media, in particular, plays a central role in this phenomenon. It's a carefully curated showcase where people display their best selves. The successful entrepreneur with an impeccable productivity routine, the mother effortlessly balancing career and personal life, the student seemingly acing every subject. It's easy to compare yourself and think, they're doing it, why can't I? This constant comparison fuels the feeling of inadequacy. It's the root of a hustle culture that drives many people to believe that if they're not constantly striving for perfection, they don't deserve success. But here's the fundamental issue. This pursuit is unsustainable and unrealistic. As Theodore Roosevelt said, comparison is the thief of joy. And in business, it's the thief of innovation. When you cling to the idea that you need to be perfect, there's a price to pay, and it's steep. The impact can be seen not only in your business success but also in your mental health, personal relationships, and decision-making ability. In business, this can mean avoiding risks due to the fear of failure. Leaders who chase perfection may become indecisive, hesitating to implement new strategies, launch products, or even expand operations. This happens because mistakes are seen as something fatal, a mark of incompetence, when in reality, they should be a catalyst for learning. Moreover, perfectionism can create a culture of fear within the company. Employees may hesitate to share ideas or ask questions, afraid that any sign of failure will be punished. On a personal level, the emotional toll is even more apparent. The pursuit of perfection is directly linked to anxiety and burnout. Have you noticed that the more you try to control every detail, the more exhausted you feel? That's because perfectionism is a form of control, and control is an endless battle. Imperfection, on the other hand, offers a chance for freedom. When we accept that mistakes are part of the process, we free ourselves from the burden of trying to control the uncontrollable. And finally, the cost of perfection is also seen in interpersonal relationships. When you try to be perfect, you miss opportunities for genuine connection with others. After all, how can we truly connect if we're hiding our vulnerabilities? This facade might work in the short term, but in the long run, it prevents both professional and personal relationships from flourishing. Let's take a look at some practical examples to make this clearer. Giant companies like Apple and Amazon are renowned for their innovation and success. However, what many don't see is that these results come from a series of trials, errors, failures, and adjustments. Apple, for example, launched products like the Apple Newton, a PDA that was a commercial failure. Instead of giving up or being ashamed of this failure, the company learned from the mistake and continued innovating, leading to the launch of the iPhone years later. Similarly, Amazon, before becoming the e-commerce giant it is today, made many mistakes along the way. The Amazon Fire Phone was a massive failure, but instead of letting it define the company, Jeff Bezos used it as an opportunity to learn more about what consumers really wanted. These stories illustrate how perfectionism, or the lack thereof, is crucial for growth. If companies like these had been afraid to fail, they would never have become the giants they are today. The same applies to your business. Imperfection is not an obstacle to success, it's a springboard. Another crucial aspect of embracing imperfection is understanding the role of vulnerability in leadership. Being a vulnerable leader doesn't mean being a weak leader. In fact, vulnerability can be one of the most powerful tools a leader has. When you allow yourself to be vulnerable, you're being honest about your limitations, challenges, and even fears. Imagine a leader who never admits to failures or uncertainties. This kind of leadership creates a barrier between the leader and the team. No one feels comfortable expressing their own insecurities because the environment only values perfection. On the other hand, a leader who shares their vulnerabilities fosters an environment of trust, where others feel comfortable sharing ideas, admitting mistakes, and collaborating genuinely. And this environment is fertile ground for innovation and success. Simon Sinek, author of Leaders Eat Last, emphasizes that the best leaders aren't those who seem invincible but those who demonstrate humanity. When you lead with empathy and vulnerability, your team feels seen and heard, creating unbreakable loyalty. This approach not only boosts team morale but also brings tangible business results. Happy and connected employees produce more, come up with more creative ideas, and are more likely to stay with the company long-term. Now that we've discussed the negative impact of chasing perfection and the benefits of embracing vulnerability, the question arises: how can you turn this mindset into a competitive advantage for your business? First, it's essential to shift the focus from the final result to the process itself. Instead of exclusively focusing on the outcome, start valuing the journey. Often, the biggest lessons and innovations come along the way, not just at the finish line. By encouraging your team to experiment, try new things, and fail constructively, you're fostering an environment where creativity can flourish. For example, consider the concept of fail fast, a popular idea in the startup world. This approach encourages entrepreneurs to test ideas quickly, identify what doesn't work, and move on without wasting time or resources. Instead of seeing each failure as a disaster, these companies view failures as learning opportunities. By embracing this mindset, you create a space for continuous innovation. Additionally, humanizing your business is a powerful way to connect with customers. Companies that share their journeys, including the missteps, tend to build a more authentic connection with their audience. Brands like Patagonia and Ben & Jerry's are known for being transparent about their failures and the challenges they face in their sustainable operations. This honesty builds loyalty and trust because consumers feel like they're part of the brand's journey, rather than just buyers. In short, embracing imperfection doesn't just help internally, it also fosters deeper relationships with your audience, turning vulnerability into a key competitive advantage. One essential tool that many entrepreneurs and leaders overlook is self-compassion. While perfectionism fuels harsh self-criticism, self-compassion allows us to treat ourselves with the same kindness we offer others. This doesn't mean being lenient or complacent. In fact, studies show that self-compassion is linked to greater resilience, improved performance, and even increased motivation. Let's consider a situation where something goes wrong in your business. You lose a key client, launch a product that doesn't perform as expected, or miss a critical deadline. The instinctive reaction might be to blame yourself, engage in self-criticism, or even doubt your ability to keep going. But what if, instead, you could say to yourself, "It's okay, this is part of the process. I can learn from this and move forward." This act of self-compassion has a powerful effect. It reduces stress, allows you to see the situation more clearly, and, paradoxically, increases your ability to recover quickly. When we aren't attacking ourselves internally, we can devote more energy to solving the problem rather than getting stuck in a cycle of guilt and shame. This isn't just an emotional skill, it's an incredibly effective business strategy. A common trap in the business world is constant comparison. The market is full of competitors, and we often look at others' success and wonder why we aren't at the same level. But here's the truth: every business is unique, just like every entrepreneur. Comparing yourself to others overlooks that uniqueness. When we look at other entrepreneurs or companies, we often only see the surface, their triumphs, their visible success. What we don't see are the challenges, failures, and sleepless nights. Focusing on comparison blinds us to what truly makes us special: our unique journey, the way we handle obstacles, and the decisions that define us. By fixating on what others are doing, we lose sight of what we can offer that's truly authentic. Instead of seeing other businesses' success as the gold standard, focus on what makes your business different. Ask yourself, what are my strengths? What can I offer that others can't? By valuing your authenticity and the unique characteristics of your business, you'll spend less time competing and more time innovating. And that's liberating. When you let go of the need to be like others, you create space to be exactly who you are, and that's a competitive advantage. At the end of the day, people don't just buy products or services, they buy into the story behind them. By telling your story, with all its imperfections and twists, you build a genuine connection with your audience. And that connection is far more valuable than any comparison. In business, one essential mindset for turning imperfection into a lever for success is the idea of continuous experimentation. When you create an environment where people can test ideas without the constant fear of failure, you're fostering innovation. This is one of the pillars of a healthy, innovative business culture: accepting mistakes as part of the learning process. Think of the most innovative companies in the world. They aren't the ones that never fail, but the ones that experiment the most. Instead of fearing mistakes, they see them as opportunities to learn and adapt. The fail-fast mindset, widely embraced in the startup ecosystem, illustrates this idea well. It means launching a product, service, or idea quickly, testing it, identifying what went wrong, and adjusting course. All this happens swiftly, without being paralyzed by the fear of failure. When you accept that failure is part of the process, the fear of failing decreases. This creates a culture where the team feels safe to experiment, innovate, and present creative solutions. And this sense of security is vital because innovation often comes from ideas that initially seem risky or even absurd. Major breakthroughs usually arise from bold attempts that may seem inadequate at first. Embracing experimentation means making room for those breakthroughs. By embracing your own imperfections and allowing others to do the same, you open the door to a more empathetic and effective leadership style. And this has a direct impact on business relationships. Authenticity breeds trust. When your clients, partners, and employees see that you're genuine, that you share your struggles and successes transparently, they begin to trust you more. This trust is the foundation of any long-term business relationship. A customer who trusts you doesn't just buy from you, they become an advocate for your brand, a partner throughout your journey. Authenticity also helps distinguish your business in a competitive market. In a world where many companies strive to appear flawless, showing your imperfections can be your biggest differentiator. Think of the brands you admire most. It's likely that they share not only their successes but also their failures and lessons learned. These stories create an emotional bond with consumers who identify with vulnerability and honesty. Therefore, by showing authenticity, you're not only building trust but also creating a brand identity that resonates deeply with people. This authenticity is what turns customers into loyal followers and partners who believe in your vision and journey. Another essential aspect of embracing imperfection is the practice of self-compassion. We live in a society that values productivity, perfection, and success without mistakes. In this context, we often become our own harshest critics. Self-compassion is, essentially, the ability to treat yourself with the same kindness and understanding that you would offer a dear friend. This is fundamental for sustaining long-term growth. Self-compassion is not the same as indulgence. It doesn't mean ignoring mistakes or being overly lenient with yourself. On the contrary, it creates a mental space where you can reflect on your failures constructively, learn from them, and move forward without being weighed down by guilt or shame. Entrepreneurs and leaders who practice self-compassion are more resilient because they can bounce back quickly after setbacks, without sabotaging themselves in the process. This ability to cultivate emotional resilience, which stems from self-compassion, is crucial in business. We all face unforeseen challenges. We all make mistakes. But what differentiates those who thrive from those who give up is the capacity to rise, learn, and move forward with a fresh perspective. It's important to understand that embracing imperfection doesn't mean settling for mediocrity. It doesn't mean you should stop striving for excellence. The real insight lies in balancing aspiration with acceptance. Yes, it's possible to have great ambitions while also accepting that the journey will be filled with mistakes and challenges. We often confuse the acceptance of imperfection with a lack of ambition. But this is a misconception. In fact, by accepting imperfection, you're freeing up creative energy that isn't consumed by the anxiety of always having to get it right. This allows you to focus on what truly matters: growth, innovation, and building something meaningful. Accepting your flaws and imperfections means you understand that the path to success is winding. You recognize that you will stumble, but you also know that every stumble is an opportunity to learn and grow. Aspiration pushes you forward, while acceptance gives you the freedom to walk the path with a lighter heart. By embracing both ambition and imperfection, you create a space for sustainable success, where each challenge becomes part of your growth story, not a roadblock to it. In the end, success in business doesn't come from perfection, but from authenticity, vulnerability, and the ability to learn from mistakes. Imperfection isn't something to be avoided. It's something to be embraced and used as a source of strength. It connects us to one another, opens doors to innovation, and allows us to lead with empathy and compassion. Throughout this article, we've explored how the pursuit of perfection can paralyze us, while accepting our humanity creates space for true, sustainable growth. In business, this acceptance is even more crucial, as it allows us to be authentic leaders, innovators, and, above all, human. Now that you know how vulnerability and embracing imperfection can transform your business, why not put it into practice? And of course, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, activate the notification bell, and share it with someone who needs to hear this message. So next time you feel the pressure to be perfect, remember, the real power lies in embracing your flaws, learning from them, and continuing to move forward. Not only will this bring success to your business, but it will also make your journey much more fulfilling and meaningful.